Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this press conference. On your behalf, I thank the two statesmen for agreeing to meet you. The format is simple. The Prime Minister will make a few remarks in the beginning. Then he will invite the General Secretary to make his observations. Then there will be questions. The interpretation arrangements have been already explained to you. 5 on your will give you, as you know, Russian, and 6 will give you English, and Hindi will be interpreted from the floor, and when you want to ask your question, please raise your hand. When you are identified, the microphone will go to you. Then please announce your name and the name of your agency or newspaper, and then please specify to whom your question is directed. Thank you. The Prime Minister.
General Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, friends, I feel that this visit of General Secretary Gorbachev to India has been a major landmark in our bilateral relations. It has reaffirmed the strong friendship between our two countries. We have had very wide-ranging discussions, very intensive discussions, almost, I think if I'm right, 10 hours between just the two of us, and I feel that they have been very fruitful. They have been held in an atmosphere of warmth, of confidence, and of trust. Other talks have been going on at various other levels, at ministerial levels and other levels between the two delegations. The outcome of this visit will be significant for our bilateral ties, for regional stability, and perhaps most for world peace. During this visit, we have talked about many areas where we have common interests, most especially peace, nuclear disarmament, development. We have signed a number of agreements during this visit. Perhaps the most important is the Delhi Declaration that the two of us signed yesterday. It lays out principles for a nuclear weapon-free world, a non-violent world. We have signed agreements on economic, scientific and technological cooperation. We've signed a consular convention, a protocol on holding festivals in each other's country, and at the end of this visit, we will make a joint statement will be issued. These agreements are a testimony to the strength, maturity, stability, and resilience, and the dynamism that Indo-Soviet friendship has come to mean. The Delhi Declaration is a historic document, and its international significance will only be seen in time. It embodies a comprehensive new framework for international relations based on freedom, equality, justice, and non-violence. It will be a major contribution to cooperative and peaceful world order. The economic agreement that we have signed is the largest that we have signed between our two countries. It covers new projects, dairy, Bokaro, coking coal, oil. There are two new elements in the economic agreement: the local cost financing and, for the first time, a turnkey approach. Of course, wherever these will be desirable, we will use them. We have also agreed to increase our trade by about 2.5 times by 1992. We will be looking at new areas, new vistas, new modes of economic cooperation. Our finance minister and the Soviet Deputy Premier Kamenetsev will be talking about these further. We have also decided to give a qualitative thrust to our science and technology cooperation in reinvigorating, revamping our relationships, perhaps doing certain research projects in frontier technology areas together, and then moving from that stage to the production stage of those technologies. We have invited academician Marchuk to come to India, and the General Secretary has agreed to send a delegation led by academician Marchuk, who will go into all these aspects, and we will follow from there. Lastly, let me say once again that this visit has been very satisfying and very heartwarming for us. I hope that this major increase in the level of our relationship will be just one more step in Indo-Soviet relations. I now call upon General Secretary Gorbachev to speak to you. This is his first visit to India. Unfortunately, he has not been able to see very much of India, and we look forward to inviting him back to see a little bit more of our country. General Secretary Gorbachev.
Уважаемый господин премьер-министр,
Distinguished Mr. Prime Minister,
уважаемые дамы и господа,
distinguished ladies and gentlemen, comrades, friends,
я должен сказать, господин
let me
премьер-министр,
say, Mr. Prime Minister,
что вы и облегчили мою
that you
миссию,
have both made my task more difficult and easier at the same time.
о главном вы уже сказали.
You have already discussed
Я
the
мог бы
major
ограничиться
points,
буквально
and I
несколькими
could
замечаниями,
limit myself to quite a
или
few,
несколькими
to
словами,
merely a
может
few
быть,
remarks,
даже одним-двумя словами
a few
сказал,
words,
что я полностью
by saying that
согласен,
I
что вы
fully
сказали.
agree with what you said.
Но я думаю,
However, I believe
тогда наши коллеги по этой встрече, журналисты, будут
our colleagues at this
удовлетворены.
meeting, the journalists, will not be satisfied.
Я хочу сказать об атмосфере
Let me first say some words about the
визита.
atmosphere
Атмосфера
of this
была
visit. The atmosphere
хорошей,
was good.
дружеской,
It was friendly.
искренней.
It was sincere.
Наши беседы
Our
шли
exchanges
в духе откровенности,
were frank.
глубокого взаимопонимания.
We understood each other very well
И это
and
позволило нам
profoundly. And this enabled us
обсудить
to
большой круг проблем,
discuss a wide range of
большой круг
issues,
вопросов,
a wide range of
представляет
problems
взаимный интерес для
of
Советского
mutual
Союза.
interest to the Soviet Union and also to India.
Наш Нынешний визит
Our
одна из
visit
вех на пути
is one of the milestones
длительного и
along the
плодотворного
path
сотрудничества между
of
Советским
long
Союзом
and
и
fruitful cooperation between the Soviet Union and India.
И кажется, тут все ясно.
And I believe everything is clear in this
Ничего нет
respect.
необычного.
There is nothing unusual.
Это подтверждение наших
This is further
постоянных связей,
testimony
углубляющихся
to
связей.
our ever-increasing and expanding
Но вместе с тем
contacts.
есть
However, at the same time,
визита,
there are
я
some
хотел бы о них сказать.
specific and distinguishing features to this visit, and let me
Эти
devote some time
особенности
to
связаны
discussing those
прежде всего
features.
с
Those features
внутренним развитием нашей
are,
страны.
above all, due to the internal developments in our
И Советский
countries.
Союз, и Индия
Both the Soviet Union and India have entered a stage of their historic development
перед собой
where
поставили
they have
цели,
set
выдвинули крупные
themselves major tasks and major goals.
задачи. Естественно,
It is quite
что это,
natural
видимо, предъявляет
that
другие
this
требования
also sets
к нашему сотрудничеству.
different
Мы должны
standards
учитывать
for our cooperation, and we must take them into account.
заботы
We must take into
друг друга,
account
как
each
это
other's
принято
concerns
у друзей.
as
мы
is
старые друзья,
common
старые
among
друзья.
friends, and we are old, long-time
Есть еще одна
partners and
особенность
friends. There is also another specific feature inherent in this
с позиции внутреннего развития
visit
наших
from
стран.
the point of view of internal developments in our countries.
Произошла смена руководства в
The
Советском
leadership has
Союзе,
changed in the Soviet Union,
в Индии.
in India.
Мы пришли к общему мнению
We have come
с господином премьер-министром,
a shared view
что
with
мы видим свою
Mr.
задачу
Prime
в
Minister
том,
that we believe that our task
чтобы не только сохранить
is not
то,
only
что
to
создано,
preserve what has already been built in our relations by the preceding generations, but also to try to make our own contribution
продвинуть наши отношения,
by advancing our relations further and deepening them,
выйти на новые
to
формы.
develop new forms of cooperation.
Есть и другая
There is
особенность
also another
нынешнего визита.
characteristic feature of the visit, namely the international situation
Проходит этот визит
that surrounds this visit, in which this visit
Мне кажется,
is taking place.
на этот счет
I think
в эти
that
дни
these days
мы высказали
we
свое мнение, свои суждения
have,
с господином премьер-министром.
expressed our
Они
views
вам
and our
известны.
opinions to the Prime Minister. You are aware of those
Мы так
views
понимаем,
and opinions, and we understand
Что ситуация в мире
that
такова,
the
что
situation in
она
the world is such
также требует,
that it requires
чтобы тот такой огромный фактор,
that
как советское
the major factor,
сотрудничество,
namely Soviet-Indian
фактор
cooperation,
мощный, фактор
this is a
огромного
powerful
значения,
factor in terms of its international weight,
приобрел бы еще большее
that
звучание.
this factor acquire a new dimension and a new importance in the world.
В эти дни мы чувствовали
These days,
свою ответственность
we
не только перед
were
нашими
aware of
народами,
our responsibility not only to our peoples and nations, but also to the nations of all the countries. Indeed, to the entire world,
которые мы проводим,
for the policy which we pursue, which is ours, and for the steps
которые мы будем
which
на основе
we
взаимодействия
will,
или самостоятельно
either independently
было до сих
or
пор,
on the basis
проводить в интересах
of commonality,
укрепления мира,
take in future in order
предотвращения угрозы
to prevent
ядерной войны.
the threat of nuclear war and to strengthen peace.
Я думаю, что эти
I think
особенности, о
that
которых
these
я сказал в
characteristic
двух словах,
features, which I have just outlined
дают вам
in a few
возможность
words, enable you
понять, почему
to understand
так был
just
построен
why
визит,
the
какой
visit
прошел.
was structured in the way it was structured. Basically, we spent these days holding discussions. We haven't had an opportunity this time, and I think this is a major drawback which has to be rectified in the future, to visit India, to see other places in India. Life goes on, cooperation is expanding, contacts will become deeper, and our relations will become more dynamic. There will be a greater number of meetings, and I believe that we will have an opportunity. And I will avail myself of the words that has already been spoken by Mr. Prime Minister in order to see some more of India during my next visit. I agree with the Prime Minister in the sense that a characteristic feature of the visit was the fact that there have been a great number of discussions and meetings. Negotiations were conducted in the plenary. Individual members of our delegations also held their negotiations with their counterparts within their purview. We have done much. We have worked extensively with the Prime Minister, and now that the visit is drawing to a close and we are summing up the results of this visit, I believe that our efforts were not in vain. It is true that we spent many hours together, tete-a-tete, one-on-one, and this made it possible for us to very carefully consider and discuss all the spheres of our cooperation and indeed all the issues pertaining to our bilateral relations as well as to international, regional issues, and this was a real wide-ranging dialogue which covered the most important and major relations of questions of international relations and of our bilateral affairs. Let me repeat that a great amount of work has been done, a large-scale and wide-ranging work, and we agreed with the Prime Minister that this work enabled us to advance our political dialogue very far and to achieve very important agreements both in political, economic, scientific and technical and cultural areas and contacts. If I were to outline the main result of the visit, I would say that it made it possible to build upon the potential of friendship and cooperation between India and the Soviet Union. In the course of the visit, we have felt once again both the significance which Soviet-Indian relations have nowadays and our responsibility to our peoples and to the entire world. And perhaps this significance flows primarily from the fact that what is involved are relations between states that belong to different social systems. They have different histories of their own. They have different and rich cultural and spiritual traditions. Decades of fair and mutually advantageous cooperation are a major and very special phenomenon of present-day life that has become an important factor in international affairs. I want to be modest, and I do not want to put the Prime Minister in an awkward situation. I wouldn't like to put Mr. Rajiv Gandhi into an awkward situation. However, let me say this.
что может быть в отношениях,
perhaps
сегодняшних отношениях Индии и Советского
within
Союза,
the framework of the relations between India and the Soviet Union today,
принципы мирного
the
сосуществования.
principles of a peaceful coexistence have perhaps found their fullest embodiment, and they deserve attention if for no other reason than the one I've just outlined. As for us, the leaders of those two countries, our task is indeed
на новом этапе мировой истории
to see to it that at the new stage in historical development,
отвечали в этим принципам.
those relations are in consistency with these new principles which I believe we all share.
Другое дело, как мы их реализуем на практике.
How we implement them in practice is something different. However, what is involved here is not only commitment, I mean the political declarations, but also practical commitment.
Мы гордимся этим.
We take pride
Почему нам
from
этим не
it.
гордиться?
Why wouldn't we
Если есть
be
политики,
proud of
которые
it?
находятся
If there are
в
politicians
поводы,
who find other
сомнительные
pretexts,
для того, чтобы
dubious and doubtful
возгордиться
pretexts,
чем-то.
to take pride in something, to become proud of something.
Здесь есть фундаментальные причины,
There are
которые
fundamental causes and reasons to be proud of it, but it also means to take responsibility.
Высокий уровень наших
The high level
отношений
of
сделал
our
возможным
relations made it possible
появление такого документа,
to develop a document,
Декларация о принципах
I mean the
свободы,
Declaration on the Principles of
ядерного оружия
Nuclear
и
Weapon-Free
ненасильственного
and Non-Violent World.
мы подписали
We
вчера эту декларацию
signed this
с
declaration
премьер-министром.
yesterday with
Я полностью
the distinguished
согласен
Prime Minister, and I fully agree with the fact
и убедительной
that
аргументацией, которую привел здесь
with the
господин Ганди, раскрывая
extensive
характеризуя
and convincing
этого важного
arguments that
документа.
Mr. Rajiv Gandhi adduced here in talking about the content of that document. Indeed, this is a unique, extraordinary document, a document of great international significance. It reflects the role played by the Soviet Union and India in international affairs,
Их моральное право
their moral right
обращаться с таким
to
призывом к
make
человечеству.
such an appeal addressed
Да, мы
to
убеждены, что
the
мы
humanity on the whole. Yes, we are convinced that we did have the moral right to sign the document, which was this declaration. This declaration reflects our and Indian standpoint regarding
жизненно важные
the most
проблемы
vital
современного мира.
problems of present-day world.
Из этого документа, во всяком случае, мировое сообщество имеет
International
возможность
community can
увидеть
see on the basis of this document the thrust of our reasoning, of
наши
our
подлинные
thoughts,
намерения и цели.
our real goals and intentions.
Вчера было подписано
Yesterday
совместное заявление.
was
Оно также
joint
необычное.
statement was also signed. This is also a unique document and an unusual document in terms of the scope of its problems and in terms of the commonality of approaches and views to urgent problems of international politics on the part of the two
Было
states.
подписано соглашение об
An agreement
экономическом
on
и
economic
техническом
and technical
сотрудничестве.
cooperation
Я хочу
was
повторить
signed.
здесь
I should
то, что
like to
сказал
repeat here what
господин премьер-министр.
Mr. Prime Minister said.
Это самое крупное
This is
соглашение в
the
истории
largest
наших
agreement
взаимоотношений в этой
in the
сфере.
history of our relations in this area.
Был подписан протокол
A
о
protocol
фестивалях в Индии и в
regarding the
Советском Союзе,
festivals in India and in the Soviet Union was
посвященным
signed.
знаменательным
The
датам в
festivals
истории
to
нашей
commemorate two anniversaries in the history of our states,
нашей
the
революции
70th
и
anniversary of our
40-летию
revolution and the 40th anniversary of independent
Масштабы
India.
содержания этих
The content and
фестивалей
scale of those
отмечают значимость этих
festivals
событий. Думаю,
reflect the importance and the purport of those manifestations, and I think that this will bring our peoples yet closer together.
и все же,
And
говоря
yet,
о подписанных в итоге
Speaking about the
визита документа,
document signed as a result of the visit,
отметить следующее.
I must
Несмотря на
note the
богатство и
following, in
содержание.
spite of the richness, of the wealth of their content.
То, что возникло в ходе самих переговоров,
What emerged in the course of the
выходит далеко за
negotiations
рамки
transcends
документов.
the framework of these documents and goes much beyond this framework and promises yet greater results for the benefit of our two countries. Naturally, such major measures to deepen and expand cooperation imply great work for all, for those who are to implement all those documents in practice. However, I am convinced that since there is a political will, since there is a trust, since there is an atmosphere which is not biased, and there is an intention and desire to take into consideration each other's interests, to help each other, to assist each other, and to cooperate, then all that has been laid down, all that has been planned and scheduled here in Delhi can, and I wish to say right away, must be implemented in practice. At least, Mr. Prime Minister and myself are deeply committed to that goal. I have been greatly impressed by the fact how Soviet envoys were received in Delhi and in India. I wish to say this by quoting the meeting in the Parliament. This is an important and significant act which will go down into the history of our relations. We have had an occasion to meet public figures, members of the Society of Friendship and Society Association of Cultural Relations with India. They came from different states, from different regions of India to welcome us. These are eminent, well-known and highly respected people. The words they have said, highly emotional and solemn words, reflected their desire to bring across to us the deep feelings of sympathy and friendship of the Indian people to the Soviet Union, to our nation, and these were highly exciting and thrilling meetings, and we will bring those feelings to our people. I would like to avail myself of the opportunity to thank the citizens of India, all the organizations that contributed to the success of this visit, to thank them for their warmth and attention that was surrounding us these days, for the generosity of the Indians with which they told us about their concerns and intentions. Here in India, both my comrades and myself could not fail to feel how close the spiritual intentions and tasks of our people are to each other. Our countries have had difficult history. There have been many difficult pages both in the history of India and in the history of our country. Perhaps this is the reason why in the Soviet Union and in the people of the Soviet Union and the people of India so strong are empathy, sympathy with the pain of the other person, the desire to achieve peace, justice, and freedom. Now returning back to the content of the negotiations that have been held during the visit, let me say that there has been not a single meeting which did not focus on the most urgent issues of international affairs. Mr. Gandhi and myself see eye to eye in our belief that the Soviet Union and India believe that the priority task, the task of tasks, is to rid humanity and the world of nuclear weapons, to ease tensions, to reduce the temperature in different hotbeds around the globe. And all this constituted the problems that were discussed in the course of our meetings and exchanges. We believe that this can be done, this can be achieved, not along the path of confrontation and enmity, not on the path of absurd build-up in the muscle and power. The position of strength, as I said yesterday, is supposed to subordinate the will of the other, to impinge upon the interests of the others, and even on crushing the others, those whom one is not happy with. But we are deeply convinced that this position is a non-starter, and its present is shameful and unseemly. The road which leads to the future lies through new political thinking, through the affirmation of this new thinking, through the understanding of new realities, through growing awareness of the interdependence of all countries, through the strong belief that in the building of peace and reliable security, all nations, all countries must participate actively. In conclusion, let me say that even in Moscow, prior to the visit, I received hundreds of letters, telegrams from Indian citizens and Indian organizations. These letters contain and express feelings of warm sympathy with our country and the Soviet people. There have been many invitations to go to India. As I said, I promise I will visit many places in India next time. From the bottom of my heart, I thank the Indian citizens, public organizations, mass media for the warm words, for the kind wishes, for the feelings of sympathy with the Soviet Union and its people. Let me especially convey my thanks and best wishes for the feelings that have been expressed, the feelings of friendship expressed by students and youngsters whom I saw only from my motor car, regrettably, but I'm sure we'll have meetings in the future. I should like them to know that I greatly appreciate the feelings which they have shown to our delegation, to our people, to the Soviet Union these days during our visit. Thank you.